Which running backs have to be in your lineup to help you win? And more importantly, who should be on your bench? Stay tuned to find out. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button after you're done so you don't miss any of our shows each week. Running back position is pretty scary these days. But good news, Chris, we might get the number one pick in all of fantasy back.
Yeah, this is a pretty exciting week for those of us who have Christian McCaffrey, which I may or may not have in both of my leagues. Because, early in the week, it was like, well, he's out there, but he's got the red non-contact jersey on. Then the next day it was like, well, he's out there in the red non-contact jersey, but then he immediately took it off and put a uniform on, right? Like Superman coming back to hopefully save all of our fantasy teams. So we'll know more tomorrow by game time if he's going to suit up or not. But if not this week, definitely next week. So he's back and it's exciting.
Absolutely. And that leads to the question, what do you do with Mike Davis? I don't know if I have the answer to that right now. And obviously we need to monitor, just like always, up through the weekend. That's why we do our game day live on Sunday morning, right? So check back in and we'll help you answer those questions. But let's talk about the guys we know right now that we do like are must starts at the running back position. So who's your first running back for week 8?
My first must start is Kareem Hunt of the Cleveland Browns playing Las Vegas this week. He had a great matchup last week, and it looked like for a long time he wasn't going to come through, but he did. I like him even better this week. The Raiders give up the third most fantasy points to running backs. They allow about 100 yards per game, 5 yards per carry, and more than 6 receptions to running backs. D'Ernest Johnson, not really involved. Hilliard, not really there at all. It's pretty much the Kareem Hunt show. I feel like this is going to be a game where both teams are going to score a lot of points. So if you have Kareem Hunt, obviously you're starting him anyways, but feel great. I could see Kareem Hunt being a top 5, maybe even a top 3 running back this week.
I couldn't agree more. I'm pretty sure I have Kareem Hunt right now. It's early in the week. I have him top 5 at the running back position. I'm going to go with the guy that I know talked about monitor injury situations through the weekend, and this one definitely applies, but it looks like Dalvin Cook is going to be ready to play. The concern might be, is he going to be on a snap count, right? They're going to limit his touches? I actually don't care. If he plays, you have to play him. He scored a touchdown every game this year. He's, of course, was on the way to being the leading rusher in the NFL until, of course, he got hurt. But you saw that offense was not the same, even against the Falcons. With Alexander Mattison, talk about a bust from the waiver wire. But Dalvin Cook, if he plays, even if it's 50% of the time, I would take that because all it takes for him is to break one long run and he makes your day. So I'm putting him as a must start unless, of course, he's ruled out. But it looks like everything is trending towards him playing. It's a good sign so far early in the week.
Yeah, and he sent out some tweet about some charity event I think he's doing or something, and he ended it by saying, "See you Sunday," as if foreshadowing that he will be in. So yeah, I think he's going to play, and I agree. Got to start him, especially against Green Bay. My next must start is Jonathan Taylor, the rookie in Indianapolis. I know he hasn't lived up to the expectations. When Marlon Mack went down, everybody thought, locked in, no doubt, top 10 back. But since week 2, he's yet to top 70 yards in a game. Only had 12 carries in each of the last 2 games. But I like him a lot this week because he's going up against Detroit. They're the fourth worst against running backs. They're allowing 115 yards per game to running backs. And I don't feel like if you look at the last 2 games, that were a loss to Cleveland, so they were playing from behind, a kind of a shootout game with Cincinnati where they really didn't get a chance to just, pound it on the ground. I think this game against Detroit's offense has not really been clicking. Even last week against Atlanta, they didn't put up a lot of points against a really bad Falcons defense. I think Indy is going to be able to control this game on the ground, rely on their defense. I think he's going to get you between 15 to 20 carries. And in this matchup against this defense, he definitely could go for 100 yards again, find the end zone. If you have Jonathan Taylor, feel great about starting him.
Yeah, and Taylor, he's kind of disappointed some people in terms of production because I guess people were expecting him to be a top 10 fantasy back, and obviously he hasn't been. And in fact, if you look at his numbers so far, actually been kind of Marlon Mack-ish, right? Look at Mack's numbers last year. Look at Taylor's numbers this year. There's no difference. So not the upgrade that maybe the team and the fantasy owners were looking for. But that said, you got to start him because I guarantee you there aren't 15, 20 other running backs you would want to start ahead of him. He's going to get the touches. It's a good matchup, so you absolutely have to start him. I'm going to go with a guy that I normally wouldn't say you must start, but against Dallas, I think it's pretty safe to say these days you can stream away, even though the Eagles have not been great offensively. But Miles Sanders is still out, probably. Don't think it's a long shot that he would play. So Boston Scott, you fire him up once again. Didn't have a huge game last week, but you know what? He found the end zone. He's going to see the volume again. He's probably going to do better this week. So, unless you happen to have a really stacked set of running backs, in which case you're not too worried about our must starts. But I think you should start Boston Scott anyways. I mean, this Cowboys defense was bad enough. Then they traded Everson Griffin, right? It looks like they're sellers. They could be moving more parts. They're basically dismantling the defense that was already terrible. So, I mean, you just have to stream away at every position possible, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. You just start everybody against Dallas. And, even though Boston Scott, he did have that touchdown catch at the end, which really boosted his fantasy points, but he got almost all the running back touches and almost all the running back snaps. So I agree. In this matchup, you got to start him. He's got top 15 potential this week, if not even top 10 in this matchup. So I love that pick. My final pick, it's got to be Le'Veon Bell going against the Jets. I mean, this is when in the pantheon of revenge games, this is as great as it gets. Like, he was just a Jet, 2 weeks ago, right? This is as revenge game as it gets. And here's the thing. In his first game with the Chiefs, he looked the best he's looked since we've seen him on the Steelers. Like, he looked the best he's looked, right? Better than he looked anytime during the Jets, which makes sense because he's not on the Jets anymore. But also, he only had, I think it was 2 or 3 less touches than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And Edwards-Helaire only got 57% of the running back touches, which is a season low for him. Typically, he's over 80%. I could definitely see this being more of a 50-50 split. Give me Le'Veon Bell getting half the touches against his old team, who aren't even that good against running backs anyways. They allow 100 yards and 6 catches per game to running backs. I love Le'Veon Bell this week.
Yeah, I mean, his workload's going to be pretty up and down throughout the rest of the year. Not sure if he's really going to be a weekly starter. This is the week you start him if you have him. I mean, I guarantee you they're going to use him because, well, first of all, it's the Jets. Let's keep in mind, this is the Chiefs, right? Last year's Super Bowl winner, arguably still the best team in the NFL against the worst team in the NFL. I think they could afford to run the ball probably 40 times this game and still do just fine. So, yeah, this is the time you fire up Bell. And then my last pick for must start, go with a guy that also has a revenge game narrative. The Chargers did not want to pay Melvin Gordon, and now he's a Bronco. But you know what? Forget that. It doesn't really matter. If Phillip Lindsay isn't playing, you start Melvin Gordon anyways. That's really the key to this game. Lindsay is questionable at the moment, but, I guess Gordon is not going to get suspended ever. He's still the lead back. This is a team that wants to establish the run because they kind of have to. So, I mean, you absolutely have to keep him in your lineup as long as he's on the field.
Yeah, and Lindsay probably being out in concussion protocol definitely helps Melvin Gordon's value.
All right, so those are the guys we think you absolutely must start. And let's give you a couple names to keep on the bench for now. Chris, who's your first must sit for week 8?
I got to go with David Montgomery playing against the Saints. Man, I mean, he's getting the volume, but the efficiency just isn't there. I talked about him in my 13 players that are losing value video. 2 weeks ago against the Panthers, 20 carries for 58 yards. Panthers, one of the worst running defenses in the NFL. Last week against the Rams, 14 for 48 yards or 44 yards. I forget the exact number. Now he's going against the Saints, who only allow 76 yards and 3 yards per carry per game on the ground. They are a stout run defense. I don't see Montgomery doing anything in this game. You've got to bench him if at all possible. I know it's hard to bench a guy getting 15 touches, but in this game, he could certainly get you, 40, 50 yards, and that is it. So I think he's got to be on your bench.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting every opportunity in the world, honestly. With Tariq Cohen out, he's it. And I mean, fantasy-wise, it's not happening. Nice to see he's catching the ball a little bit. That's, kind of boosting his value in PPR leagues. But yeah, in a tough matchup, he is definitely benchable because, I mean, honestly, do you want 5-6 points maybe, or do you want to at least take a chance on a guy who could get you more? So I agree with that. I'm going to go with a former Saint, Mark Ingram. I know he's questionable. It sounds like he actually is trending towards playing. We've heard some kind of positive reviews. I think actually John Harbaugh even said he was counting on him being there. It doesn't matter if he plays or not. Keep him benched, even if he was 100% healthy, 110%. Doesn't matter. He's not startable in fantasy anymore. Chris, you've talked about this pretty much all year. It's a 3-man committee. That's not changing. And you're talking about the Pittsburgh run defense. No thanks. You saw they were even able to clamp down on Derrick Henry for most of the day. If they can do that, yeah, Mark Ingram, there's zero chance that he's in any of my lineups. Oh, wait, I don't have him anywhere, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can't start Mark Ingram on the best day. So certainly no chance you should be playing Mark Ingram under any circumstance. I totally agree. My last must sit is Devin Singletary out there in Buffalo. Had a couple really nice games when Zach Moss was out, but in the games that Zach Moss has played, he's never gotten more than 10 carries in those games. Josh Allen actually leads the Bills in rushing over the last 2 weeks. So he's getting you very, very little, right? And over the last 3 games in PPR leagues, he's totaled 16.5 points over 3 games. You're talking about a 5 point per game average like that. You can find that on the waiver wire, no problem. Now, the matchup with New England isn't necessarily the worst. Their defense has not been as good as we expect them to be. But again, getting the limited touches, Josh Allen, running the ball. Josh Allen, a lot of times running the ball from the 1 if they get down there, and him not getting the goal line carries. Cannot have Singletary in your lineups.
Yeah, I agree. He's a guy that we kind of knew going into the season. They drafted Moss for a reason. They don't trust Singletary as the main back. He's never going to get 15 plus touches per game, even in, as a receiver too. It's just not happening in a tough matchup. Bench every time. And I think it's safe to say that no matter who's a running back for the Chargers these days, it's 2 guys and they can't even add up to the value of 1. So both Joshua Kelley and Justin Jackson, I know you probably picked them up off waivers at some point last couple of weeks. I'm not saying you have to drop them, but you definitely cannot start them. Denver, believe it or not, Denver actually is the best defense at limiting running backs in the fantasy game. All right, the fewest points per game to running backs. So when you have 2 backs who are both ineffective going against the toughest defense, I think it's safe to say you can find someone better. Even if you pluck somebody off waivers right now, they could probably do better than both those guys combined. Running backs, you know what? It's a tough world out there. Thank God for CMC coming back. If you've checked out a waiver wire episode, you can find some help out there. I know waivers are running a lot of leagues. Might be some free agents out there, so check that out. And of course, check out our other videos talking about must starts and sits for every position. Hit that subscribe button and you won't miss a thing. All right, guys. Happy Halloween. Thanks for watching.